Greg, I see from your notes we're going to do a wrestling segment next, and maybe the three of us, you and I and Nick, could take a little break here.
Well,
and,
let's do a little arm
turn
wrestling
the-
first.
Turn the mic over to Mike, so to speak, because he's got a heck of a wrestling
Apple
team out
Valley.
there, Apple Valley.
Well, yeah, and 3A pretty much begins and ends with Apple Valley. The unfortunate thing is the second best team in Class 3A is Hastings, which is in Apple Valley's section. So that's a situation you run into in a lot of sports where one section seems to be particularly loaded. You'll talk about Simley in a moment. Had Simley not dropped down to Class 2A, they may very well have ended up in the same section as Apple Valley and Hastings. So it's the move to 2A has certainly, I think, been to Simley's benefit. Apple Valley starts its season Saturday at a dual tournament in Rochester. They were going to have 4 individual state champions coming back. Turns out one of those kids, Eric DeVos, who'd won the 103-pound state championship the last 2 years, has moved to Iowa. If there's any place where a loss like that is a flesh wound, it's probably Apple Valley. If anything, DeVos's departure eases a bit of a logjam they had at the lower weights. What they still do have is Destin McCauley, a kid who still has a chance to be a 6-time state champion, which has never happened in Minnesota. He's a sophomore, has won 3 already. Won a summer national championship in the off-season. They also have Justin Laval and Tyler Lehman back as returning state champions. They also have a kid at the lower weights named Dakota Trom, who was 31-3 last year and did not make their section individual lineup.
They're just a powerhouse. They have been for what, 30 years?
Last year's state championship was their 16th.
16.
And this year will be 17 because they're just not going to be touched. They will build up too big a lead in the lower weights for anybody to make up the points in the upper weights. Apple Valley has a little less experience in the upper weights, although they do have a kid who, at least the start of the year, is slotted to wrestle 189. He was, I believe, second in the state at 152 last year. They don't. Their upper weights aren't necessarily loaded with kids who have won state championships or placed nationally, but they have quality there. They're just not going to be touched this year.
Well, Bloomington Kennedy, I should say Bloomington has a co-op wrestling team. Kennedy, mostly Kennedy wrestlers, some Jefferson. They're going to be awfully tough. They returned 2 of the best wrestlers in the state, Robbie Fisher and Dylan Ness. Dylan's younger brother of Jason, who's a 2-time All-American at the University of Minnesota. And so they'll be tough, but they always have Apple Valley in their conference. I think this year they're in a different. They were last year.
They are in a different section this year. They will have to go up against Prior Lake to get to state. Prior Lake, I believe, in the preseason state rankings was 3rd in 3A behind Apple Valley and Hastings.
And in Class A, or 2A, I should say, Simley is the defending champion, and new coach, sort of a new coach, but it's Jim Short, who used to coach him, and he built up the program into the championship program they do have. Will Short, his son, who wrestled for him and then was coach of the state championship team last year, he took over the athletic director's position at Simley, so he relinquished his wrestling duties, so he gets his dad to coach. And so they're fortunate to have a person like Jim in charge of that program, and they will be tough. They ended up beating Perham in one of the most exciting state tournament matches a year ago in the finals, 28-24. Their junior heavyweight, Charlie Galhay, got a pin in the final seconds or in his match to clinch the win. And they've got several other wrestlers that finished top 5, Dan Dick, Tommy Glenn, and Jack Barnes. So they're definitely going to be, the cupboard is still loaded with talent and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Simley back at state. Any closing thoughts? Brock Lesnar, I know Brock Lesnar is a close personal friend of yours, and Brock had a big win.
Brock's the champion now, and Brock was a great wrestler at the University of Minnesota, and so many of our kids around here aspire to go on with that great university program with Jay Robinson. But I'm going to be watching Classic Lake Wrestling this year. Wazetta's a great team, Minnetonka, Hopkins, and we're going to be hearing a lot of this. Sound of the pen.
I talked to Wazetta's wrestling coach on the field after the prep bowl game, and I asked him if he's going to give it, because a number of his kids were suited up for that game, and he asked me, he said to give him a break. He had him in the room Monday morning, and when you got a school of 3,000 kids, it's typically pretty, not overly difficult to find, whatever it is, 11 or what, however weight classes there is to put a team together. And up in Champlain Park, you're going to the same thing. That's the third largest high school in the state enrollment-wise. And, their head coach, Bill Marish, if you ever watch his, youngest boy, Sam, wrestle, they got a lot in common. Bill's about as intense as they come, and, they're going to find guys that fill some of their weight classes. Whether or not they're up there with the elite Seattle Valleys, the Bloomingtons, the Simleys, I will find that out, but they're going to put together quality teams.